You've been taught to play fair, to speak your truth, to show your intentions, to live openly, as if the world rewards transparency. But here's what no one tells you. The world doesn't reward honesty, it rewards understanding. The one who understands human nature, not as we wish it to be, but as it really is, always wins. And this is the forbidden mind trick Machiavelli mastered. He saw it 5 centuries ago, the invisible rule behind every game of power, love, politics, and business. People are not controlled by truth. They are controlled by perception. Once you understand that, you stop fighting for fairness and start designing outcomes. You've felt it before, haven't you? That frustration when you're smarter, more capable, more deserving, and yet someone else gets the recognition, the promotion, the influence. You tell yourself they're lucky or connected or manipulative, but the real reason is simpler. They're fluent in human behavior. They know how people think, what people fear, what people want to believe, and they give them exactly that, nothing more. Machiavelli understood that intelligence is not knowledge. It's not your IQ, your degrees, your talent. It's your ability to see the world as a system of motives, not morals. He called it virtù, the courage to face human nature without flinching. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people are too emotional to ever see clearly. They confuse morality with intelligence, kindness with strength, and intention with result. They mistake being good for being effective, and that mistake is what keeps them ordinary. Because every time you act from emotion instead of analysis, you hand over control to someone who doesn't. Every time you explain yourself, justify yourself, defend yourself, you leak information that others use to predict you. And prediction is the death of power. The smartest people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who see 10 moves ahead, not because they're cold, but because they've learned that emotion is the easiest weapon to turn against you. So here's the forbidden mind trick. To become 10 times smarter than everyone around you, you must stop reacting like everyone around you. You must learn to hold your silence when others rush to speak. You must learn to observe without announcing what you see. And most importantly, you must learn to let people underestimate you. That's not weakness. That's positioning. Because the underestimated are invisible, and the invisible are untouchable. Machiavelli warned rulers about this, the danger of transparency. He said that a prince who is too honest loses the obedience of his people. Modern translation, a person who shows all their cards loses the game before it begins. The goal isn't to lie. The goal is to filter, to reveal only what strengthens your image and conceal everything that dilutes it. This is the architecture of control. Let's pause here, not to moralize, but to face something raw. Most of the people you admire, the successful, the powerful, the magnetic, are not who you think they are. They've built characters. They've studied reactions. They've mastered the art of making others feel chosen, while they remain in control of the choosing. Every social interaction is a stage. Every word you speak, every pause, every gesture, it all writes your script in the minds of others. And here's the twist Machiavelli would whisper in your ear. You are always performing. The only question is, are you the actor or the audience? When you finally grasp that, the world stops feeling random. You stop asking, why did they treat me this way? And start asking, what did I teach them to expect from me? Now, let's dig deeper, because understanding this trick isn't enough. You have to see it in motion. Imagine 2 people entering a negotiation. One arrives eager, open, expressive, thinking clarity builds trust. The other listens, watches, measures, saying little. Who has more control? The second, always. Because silence creates projection, and projection creates advantage. The first person exposes their thoughts, the second person shapes them. Machiavelli wrote that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, meaning people believe what they see, not what is true. Control what they see, and you control what they believe. This is the first step to the forbidden intelligence. Detach from appearances, manipulate them instead. Don't just react to life, frame it. Every narrative can be rewritten. Every setback can be reframed as strategy. The one who defines the story defines the truth. That's why Machiavelli never feared chaos. He used it. He believed that a storm reveals what peace hides, and that people's true desires only appear when pressure strips away their pretenses. So he advised rulers to create controlled crises, not to destroy, but to reveal. Because what people do under stress shows what they value, and once you know what they value, you know how to move them. Here's where most people fail. They think intelligence is about solving problems, but real intelligence, Machiavellian intelligence, is about creating leverage. When you solve problems, you become useful. When you create leverage, you become necessary. And necessity is the highest form of power, because people can resist your arguments, your ideas, your requests, but they can't resist their own dependence on you. That's why the forbidden mind trick isn't about being right. It's about being required. To reach that level, you must learn to think in invisible structures, to anticipate not just actions, but reactions, reputations, and ripple effects. Every great strategist lives in the future, while everyone else drowns in the present. Now let's turn the blade inward, because this is where most people crumble. They understand the trick conceptually, but emotionally, they can't live it. They want to be admired, not feared. They want to be seen as good, not effective. They want to believe that transparency will save them, and that's why they stay predictable. You can't master Machiavellian intelligence without mastering yourself first. You can't manipulate perception if you're still addicted to validation, because every time you need to be liked, you become easy to control. People will sense it. They'll feel your eagerness, your emotional hunger, and subconsciously, they'll start to position themselves above you. The truly intelligent don't chase approval. They design perception. They understand that most people don't see reality. They see reflections of their own emotion. So the key isn't to fight perception, it's to feed it strategically. You can test this in your own life right now. The next time you enter a room, say less. Make one clear observation instead of 10 small ones. And then, watch what happens. Silence triggers curiosity. Curiosity triggers attention. Attention triggers influence. The loud seek validation. The calm signal power. This is why Machiavelli warned, it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. He didn't mean cruelty. He meant presence. Because when people respect you, they self-regulate. They speak differently, act differently, think differently around you. That's not manipulation. That's psychological architecture. Every empire and every corporation, every influencer you see dominating culture is built on this same structure. They've learned to control attention, and attention is modern obedience. What you look at is what controls you. What you question is what frees you. To be 10 times smarter than others, you must stop chasing the obvious and start reading the invisible. Look not at what people say, but at why they say it. Listen for motives, not words. Because words are camouflage. Motives are the weapon. When someone praises you, ask what they gain. When someone criticizes you, ask what they fear. When someone ignores you, ask what they envy. This level of thinking is not paranoia, it's precision. Let's make this visceral. Right now, think of one situation in your life where you felt powerless. In a relationship, a workplace, a friendship. You wanted to speak up, to assert yourself, but you hesitated. That hesitation, it wasn't weakness, it was conditioning. You were taught that clarity equals peace. But in the real world, clarity is currency. Once you speak, others know your price. Once you react, they know your threshold. Once you defend yourself, they know your fear. So what if, instead of defending, you redirected? What if, instead of reacting, you reframed? What if, instead of proving your intelligence, you used it quietly to shift behavior, shape dynamics, and dictate tempo? That's how Machiavellian intelligence looks in motion. It's invisible until it's too late to resist. And this is only the first half, because there's one level deeper. The step Machiavelli reserved only for rulers, and which modern psychology has barely begun to rediscover. It's the art of turning people's emotions into architecture, using their needs, fears, and desires to build the very system that benefits you. Not through force, through design. And once you understand that, you'll never play small again. Power doesn't begin with domination. It begins with observation. That's the first truth people miss when they talk about Machiavelli. They think his world was filled with cruelty and deceit, but they misunderstand him. His brilliance wasn't in manipulation for its own sake. It was in understanding how fragile people really are, and how predictability gives birth to control. He watched rulers rise and fall, empires grow and collapse, not because of intelligence or virtue, but because of psychology. And the greatest pattern he uncovered, the one hidden beneath politics, war, love, and wealth, was this. The human mind will always trade freedom for comfort, and clarity for illusion. That's the law no one escapes. And if you learn to see it, you stop being one of the ruled. Here's what it looks like in your life. When people choose leaders, they don't choose the most capable, they choose the most certain. When people fall in love, they don't choose the most compatible, they choose the most fascinating. When people follow ideas, they don't follow truth, they follow confidence, certainty, fascination, confidence. 3 illusions powerful enough to build nations. That's the forbidden mind trick in its purest form. Control perception, and you control reality. Because people don't live in the world, they live in the story they tell themselves about it. The Machiavellian mind doesn't fight that truth, it authors it. But here's where the transformation begins, where intelligence becomes empire. Machiavelli knew that every system, every group, every culture rests on a shared illusion. He called it the appearance of virtue. You see it today as the performance of goodness. Look around. Everyone's signaling something. Virtue, empathy, outrage, humility. But few understand the truth. Virtue is currency. Outrage is leverage. Empathy is control disguised as care. People are no longer ruled by swords, but by symbols. Those who understand how to create and manage those symbols, the brands, the reputations, the identities, control not just markets, but minds. And once you control minds, money follows like gravity. That's why the first step to real intelligence is to break your addiction to surface appearances. You must stop asking, "Is it true?" and start asking, "Who benefits if I believe it?" Every belief is a transaction. Every moral principle, every trend, every movement is a negotiation of power. That realization will shake you. It should. Because it's the moment you realize that the system you thought was ethical was strategic all along. And that's when your transformation begins. Let's pause, not to slow down, but to deepen your awareness. Because there's a question hiding underneath all of this. If intelligence is perception, and perception is power, how do you become untouchable in a world addicted to illusion? Machiavelli would answer, by designing your own illusion, and never confusing it with yourself. You see, most people get lost in their image. They want to be the image they create. They want to believe the stories others believe about them. And that's how they fall. They drown in their own reflection. But the Machiavellian mind stays behind the curtain. It builds the illusion, manages it, but never becomes it. That's why such people seem composed even in crisis. They've never mistaken the performance for the person. You want real freedom? Then build your persona like a mask. Beautiful, strategic, unshakable. But never, ever forget that it's a mask. Here's a deeper truth few can handle. The reason most people will never become powerful isn't lack of opportunity. It's emotional noise. They talk too much, think too loudly, react too fast. They chase validation with the desperation of a gambler who's already lost everything. They want control, but they can't even control their own mind. Machiavelli's greatest insight wasn't about ruling others. It was about ruling yourself first. He wrote that, "A prince must be like the fox and the lion. The fox, to see traps. The lion, to scare wolves. Meaning, you must master duality. You must know when to hide and when to strike, when to listen, when to act, when to be feared, when to charm. The true intelligence lies in timing. Most people waste their lives reacting too early or apologizing too late. They lose control because they mistake activity for power. But the Machiavellian mind understands that silence isn't emptiness and it's pressure. And when released at the right moment, that pressure moves worlds. Now, here's how this translates into your life. Right now, wherever you are. There are 5 steps. They aren't moral. They aren't mystical. They are psychological. And they work. Step 1. Detach from your emotions before making any decision. You can't see clearly through fog. Wait until the storm of your own reaction calms. Only then do you act. Never during. Step 2. Observe more than you speak. The moment you speak, you reveal what drives you. People use your words as maps to manipulate your future. Silence makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability breeds respect. Step 3. Build perception deliberately. Don't leave your reputation to luck. Curate it. Control the small details. Every gesture, every phrase, every pause should signal intention. You don't need to explain. You need to imply. Power speaks in subtext. Step 4. Create leverage instead of arguments. Never waste energy convincing people. Change what they depend on. When others need you, persuasion becomes unnecessary. Step 5. Never seek fairness. Seek structure. Fairness is emotional. Structure is strategic. Design systems where your consistency becomes their reliance, where they follow your rhythm because it feels safer than resisting it. Follow these 5 steps, and you'll begin to notice something extraordinary. The noise around you fades. People start to speak differently. The world starts responding to you instead of you responding to it. That's when you realize you're no longer playing the same game. You're designing it. And once you reach that level, your intelligence feels supernatural to others. They call it luck. They call it charisma. They call it intuition. But it's none of those things. It's pattern recognition. It's the ability to predict human behavior while others still believe in coincidence. It's emotional neutrality, the rarest form of intelligence on Earth, because the calmest mind in the room controls the room. Always. Machiavelli believed that most people destroy themselves by confusing morality with self-preservation. They act out of guilt, not clarity. They apologize when they should observe. They justify when they should remain silent. They give power away simply because they can't stand the tension of being misunderstood. But those who rise, the rare ones, understand that tension is a signal of growth. That fear is the boundary between average and extraordinary. You want to be 10 times smarter. Then learn to tolerate what others avoid. Silence, ambiguity, discomfort. Because the world's greatest moves are made in silence. The richest deals, the deepest alliances, the most decisive betrayals, all occur behind closed doors, in the quiet. And you must learn to become comfortable there. In the space between appearance and intention, let's go even deeper, because by now, you can feel the pull of this philosophy inside you, that subtle awareness that most of what you were taught about intelligence, success, and morality was designed to keep you manageable. Society trains obedience, not awareness. It rewards consistency, not clarity. And the few who escape that hypnosis aren't rebels, they're architects. They see through appearances, through ideologies, through language. They realize that freedom doesn't mean breaking the system. It means understanding it so well, you can use it. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." It's not about speed, it's about lucidity, about seeing reality before others are ready to admit it. Here's the paradox you must hold in your mind. To master others, you must first master perception. But to master perception, you must first master your detachment from it. Meaning, you must care enough to notice, but not enough to need. That's what makes you unpredictable, and that's what makes you powerful. The moment someone knows what you crave, you are owned. The moment someone senses your fear, you are led. But when your presence radiates composure, when your silence carries weight, they project greatness onto you. And in that projection, you gain control. That's the forbidden mind trick, to be the mirror everyone else stares into, trying to understand themselves. Now, imagine living like that. Imagine walking into any room knowing you can shape its temperature, raise tension, lower it, redirect it. Imagine understanding people so deeply that their motives become transparent to you, while yours remain hidden. That's not magic. That's clarity. And it's the ultimate form of wealth. Because wealth isn't just money. It's freedom from dependence, freedom from emotional volatility, freedom from the illusions that control everyone else. That's why Machiavelli's code still rules the modern world. Because it's not about cruelty or deception. It's about awareness. It's about seeing what's real when others can only see what's comfortable. And in that awareness, you stop reacting. You start moving pieces. There's one last revelation, one that ties it all together. Every empire, every fortune, every mind that rose from nothing began with the same moment. A decision. Not the decision to work harder or to fight longer. The decision to wake up, to see through manipulation instead of complaining about it, to study power instead of judging it, to master emotion instead of escaping it. Because once you see the pattern, you can never unsee it, and that awareness changes everything. You stop begging to be chosen. You start positioning yourself to be needed. You stop reacting to systems. You start creating them. You stop being part of someone else's illusion and start designing your own. That's what Machiavelli really meant when he wrote The Prince. It wasn't a book for tyrants. It was a mirror for those ready to lead. So, remember this. The forbidden mind trick isn't a secret spell. It's a state of perception. It's the discipline of silence, the art of reading emotion like currency, and the courage to remain strategic in a world addicted to noise. Master that, and the world bends toward your composure. You become the calm in chaos, the unseen architect behind outcomes, the quiet intelligence no one can define, but everyone respects. And when people finally ask, "How did you do it?" you'll smile, because they won't understand that you didn't play harder, you simply played wiser. This channel isn't about motivation, it's about awareness. If you felt the shift inside you, that quiet clarity in your chest, don't let it fade. Subscribe, not to follow, but to remember who you're becoming. Leave a comment below with one illusion you've just seen through. And in the next video, we'll go even deeper into the invisible mechanisms that make others predictable and you unstoppable.